Greetings, peace and blessings to you, your family, and loved ones. I am Nana Bakai, and I am here again to continue our lessons on understanding the I Ching. I've done several videos to describe the different hexagrams and some of the meanings of the different hexagrams. But today, what I would like to do is to make a detour or a shift from describing the hexagrams to talking about how you can consult the I Ching. There are many books out there that will help you to understand how to consult the I Ching. So I will do this very briefly. And there are also a lot of videos on YouTube that help you to understand how to consult the I Ching. With me, I go through a particular process. The first aspect of the process is called clearing. And that is that I clear the area from any kind of discordant energies that may be in the area in which I wish to toss the coins. Now there's a product that I use called Florida water, and or you can use an incense to just walk around counterclockwise the area in which you are about to toss the coins. So I will use the Florida water to sprinkle it around the room counterclockwise, and then I will burn incense. And I pick an incense that has a sweet scent to it, a natural floral incense. Or you can use frankincense or myrrh, whichever you feel inclined to use. In your mind, you've already made the intention that you wish to clear the area. I also have a table set up with various different items. I have a glass of water, since water represents spirituality or that spiritual essence, that flow. So I use a glass of water. I also use a candle, because the fire from the candle represents the flame of life or enlightenment. And it also comes from the earth as well. So we have fire, we have water, we have fire. Then I have crystals from the earth as well, which can represent the earth. I even have a little dirt from Ghana, just to have that energy of the earth. And the candle also represents the air, because it is oxidizing. You know, when the candle burns off, you see if you look closely, you'll see some of the what do you call it, the flame. You can actually see, if you look closely, you can actually see a movement going on, so as if the air is being extended from the burning of the flame. It's a carbon that's coming off, but nevertheless it gives us the idea of the air aspect. So we have the water, we have the fire coming from the candle, the air coming from the candle, and the earth, which is the crystals that are coming, that are there, excuse me, to represent the four principles of the planet upon which we live. And there's a fifth principle called the ether, and that aspect is basically the spirit from which and through which and with I should say the spirit is that with which you are working with. Excuse me, I get tongue-tied sometimes. So those are the elements that I place upon the altar. Before I begin, I do a simple, short meditation just to center myself. I have several books that I refer to, and those are there as well. I use cowrie shells. Cowrie shells are little sea creatures, or well, they're actually the shells of little tiny sea creatures. And many years ago, especially on the continent of Africa, those cowrie shells represented wealth. So instead of using coins, I use cowrie shells. But you can use coins or anything that you choose to use that has a top and a bottom. They should all be exactly the same. So that is, you can have 3 pennies, 3 dimes, 3 nickels, 3 quarters, 3 50-cent pieces, if you can find those, $3 coins. And that is what you can use. You determine what is the head and what is the tail. You determine what will be your broken line and what will be your straight line. The I Ching knows what you want to do. And so whatever way you set it up, as long as you remain consistent, you will get answers from the I Ching. And these answers will guide you just as they would if you used the yarrow sticks. But you must remain consistent. It's important for your own ability to connect to the answers that you remain consistent. Also, you want to, with the cowrie shells, make a determination what part of the cowrie shell you want to have as the head and what part of the cowrie shell you want to have as the tail. And you typically want to use cowrie shells that have been adjusted, or they have a little way that they knock the back of the cowrie shell out. So you want to have cowrie shells that can lie flat, either face up, and can lie flat face down. That is if you choose to use cowrie shells. I once had a client who decided to use crystals, and she had 3 flat crystals, and she determined which side was the head and which side was the tail, and it worked for her. Also, as you move through the adjusting, preparing, and planning for your moment with the I Ching, you want to make sure that everything that you need is right there, so that when you sit down, you can sit down comfortably, peacefully, without having to jump up and go get, I don't know, the candle, run out the room and get a glass of water or whatever. And that's simply to help you remain focused. Focusing is very, very important when you're working with the oracle. So you want to remain focused, okay? And so when you have everything available that you need, then you can remain focused. You can pay attention much more easily when everything that you need is there. Now you might want to turn on some soft music, you know, just to kind of give it that peaceful vibration in the area in which you're about to toss your coins. Now, after we've gotten everything ready, we're ready to toss the coins. As I spoke about before, it's very important to ask first questions first. And so if you have an issue or concern that you wish to address, you want to think about the first question that you should ask. And that way, the oracle can have a dialogue with you and can guide you through the next questions and the next questions and the next questions. Sometimes if you don't ask first questions first, the oracle will respond to you as if you already asked it, because that's important to know what the train of thought should be. It's important to be able to follow that from the beginning to the end so that the session that you have with the oracle can make sense. So you determine what's the top or head, and then you determine what's the tail. I don't count the numbers. Like in some books, you'll have them counting 333 and 222. That always confused me, and so I found a more simple way of doing it. And the simplistic way that I use is, if you have one head and two tails, then you go with the one that's different. If you've determined that the head is a straight line, then you draw a straight line. If you've determined that the head is a broken line, then accordingly you would draw a broken line. If you have two tails, I said that okay already. If you have two heads and a tail, I go with the one that's different. And the tail would be either your broken line or your straight line. When you make that determination, you want to stick with it. So I'm going to step back a second and go with the determinations that I have made, and then you can determine whether or not they fit you. So if I have tail, tail, heads, I draw a broken line. If I have heads, head, tail, I draw a straight line. If I have three heads, I draw a broken line with a circle in the center. And if I have three tails, I draw a straight line with an X. The broken line with the circle and the straight line with an X are what we call changing lines. And that means that, or indicates that, another hexagram must be drawn from the reading that you got after you've done this 6 times. Remember, you toss the coins or shells or whatever your instruments that you're using, you toss them 6 times from the bottom. You draw your lines to the top. Say that again. From the bottom, you draw your line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's like building a house. You build a house from the bottom up. You build your hexagram, which is a object that has 6 lines from the bottom up. Okay. Now, when you have changing lines, you don't stop and go change the line. You keep going until you finish the entire hexagram. Sometimes people want to stop and start drawing or constructing the next hexagram. No, don't do that. Construct the first hexagram, okay? And then when you go to construct the second hexagram, you don't always get changing lines, but this is in the case of a changing line. When you do get changing lines, beside you draw the hexagram exactly the same way. The second hexagram is drawn exactly the same way, except when you get the line that has a change on it. That change is represented by that circle on the broken line or the X on the straight line. And when you do that, When you get up there, say for example, it's the third toss. You change that third line to its opposite. If it was a broken line that had a circle on it, it changes to a straight line. No markings, no circles, no X's, just a straight line. Then you go up again, and if it's the fifth line, that's a straight line and it has an X on it, then you go to the next hexagram, draw, draw, draw. And when you get to that fifth line, now it changes to a broken line. And if there's no other changes, everything else remains the same. This is a complicated concept at the beginning when you first start doing it. After a while, you get used to it. The changing lines are very important. They are indicators of what you should focus on. So you don't want to miss the changing lines. They are also indicators of a second hexagram, which gives you more information about the reading. And so that says there is something else that the oracle wants to say to you about this situation. The first hexagram in some instances is the now, and the second hexagram in some instances is the future. In some instances, the first hexagram could be your past or what happened in the past, and the second hexagram could be your present. As you begin to become more and more familiar with the oracle, you will be able to determine whether or not the hexagram is talking about your past, your present, or your future. Sometimes you may ask a question and the hexagram will tell you how. That first hexagram will give you an idea of how to be in a situation. And the second hexagram will give you some ideas of the outcome of what that would look like if you follow the instructions or the guidance in the first hexagram. Okay? Also, there are situations where you may get a hexagram that appears to be totally the opposite of what it is that you were seeking to get an answer to. And so in those instances, the oracle is asking you to look more deeply into the situation and to understand, number one, that there is an inverse in every situation. Every situation has yin-yang. Every situation has its opposite. So while it may appear to be something that is which might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable even, it's just letting you know that that's an aspect of the situation and that you can learn something from that particular aspect of the situation. Okay, and there are other indicators as well, and I won't get into that too deeply in this video, but I did want to at least have one video in the series that talks about how you want to toss the coins or shells or whatever item, 3 items that you choose to toss the coins. I mean, to construct your hexagrams with. So I'm going to finish out with this, and prayerfully this will give you some indicators of how you can consult the I Ching in terms of the actual tools that you use to set up the area, to help you focus on what it is that you need to focus on, or prepare yourself to be focused in getting this particular reading, to help you construct the hexagram from the bottom up, give you an idea what changing lines represent, and how to construct the second hexagram when you do get changing lines. So thank you for watching, and Peace and blessings to you and your family and loved ones, and we shall meet again soon.